Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me. This is Marlene C. DeRosso. Thank you so much for joining my channel and watching my channel. Before I continue, go ahead and like and subscribe. Like right on the way in. Go ahead and hit subscribe. I'm going to put the little image there to remind you to do so at the end as well. And should the information that I'm talking about resonate with you, definitely comment and let me know what you think and share the video. Share the video if it resonates with you or someone else that you know could benefit from it. So in today's recording, I wanted to talk about reinventing yourselves. How does one go about reinventing yourself? And where would that aspect or that thought even come from, right? So I want to kind of dig into that a little bit because I am a person, a lady of a particular age, and right now I am in a different aspect of my life. I am in my early 40s now. I still can't believe that I'm saying that, but I never thought that I would need to reinvent myself. But I guess I've been going through reinvention over the past decade or so and just never really was mindful of it or kind of knew that that's what was going on. But now I'm a little bit more self-aware and I'm trying to be more intuitive and in tune with what I'm going through, what my life is throwing at me so that I can be able to identify these changes and determine, okay, so is this a change that I have to incorporate in how I am, or is this a change that will help me to cultivate the new person that I have to become, right? So I want to talk about that for a little bit because I have to tell you the past few years has just been crazy. So to share a personal story, my reinvention actually is happening for more than one reason. And I can talk about, I'll probably make a separate video about the different ways now that I'm more self-aware and I know that that's what's happening. I can recognize the ways that I had to reinvent myself as I went on with my life. So that I don't forget, let me kind of get into it. For instance, I had to reinvent myself when I became a wife. So there wasn't much of a huge change because by the time my husband and I got married, I was kind of already me, nothing really necessarily needed to change. And we had kind of lived together already. So our dynamic was already being built and cultivated because we were cohabitating. So my mindset going into being a wife didn't really call for a reinvention outside of me being mindful and knowing that now that or at the time that I'm now a wife versus a girlfriend, right? So that's one big shift for me. The next big shift where I could look back now and realize that I was reinventing myself was when I was in my mid to late 20s and I was working on studying for and trying to earn my certification as a certified public accountant. Now, that was a lot because prior to that, I was still the same Marlene. I was a wife. I, was working. I was an employee. I didn't feel the need to reinvent myself. No reinvention was happening at that point. I was just moving along with life as it went along. And it's not until I needed to focus and study to become a CPA that I found, oh boy, there's a reinvention happening here because I have to be fully transparent. The CPA exam consists of, or at the time, 4 parts. So the 4 parts that I had to take, you have to take one at a time, etc. So one of the parts, which was the first one that I took, you guys, you're not going to believe this. Well, granted, I'm going to tell you anyway, but I had to take that first part and I didn't pass it until I took it the 5th time. Yes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And it's going into the 5th testing and then all of the subsequent parts testing, I realized I needed to reinvent myself and I was a different person because prior to that, I was the one that was always there for everybody, just go with the flow. They called me, no notice, nothing was planned. Marlene, I need you for this. Marlene, come over and do that. Marlene, how about we go here and hang out? Marlene, no problem. It wasn't an issue. That's just how I am. I love my family. I love my friends. It wasn't an issue. Then I had to realize that, okay, I can't be that same Marlene. I have to put myself in a situation where I have to be mindful of how I'm spending my time, what I'm spending my time on, because right now, a lot of my time needs to be focused on getting through and passing this exam, because not only was I, not passing, every time you don't pass, that's time being taken away because I'm still resolving issues for other people. But I would come back to this unpassed test that I now have to dedicate more time and energy to passing one. And then I'm paying money because every time, you don't pass, you have to re-register, you have to pay for the test. And then I have to pay for study materials because depending on how much time was in between, the material might have been outdated. So you have to get new material. So that's when I said, okay, no. So that's when another reinvention happened. I became a different person that was a little bit more self-aware in terms of my time, and knowing that my time couldn't be split for everyone, and I had to focus on what I was doing. I made myself a little bit more the center of my life. I reinvented myself into that person, and it was trying to study for the CPA exam that allowed me to do that. So just to kind of close that part off, I was able to pass on the fifth try that first part, and then the remaining three parts. And now imagine my mindset. I'm like, oh my gosh, if it took me 5 times to pass this first part, what's going to happen with the remainder of these parts? And not only it was then that I realized that a reinvention was happening after I know it needed to happen. A friend of mine told me this is also a test of your resiliency, and God is testing you to see if this is something you really, really want in addition to everything. Because after the fourth time failing, I mean, who wants to go back? Right. At that point, just the human nature aspect of me wants to just give up and not continue. So she said it's God's plan and you'll be fine. You just have to reinvent yourself, kind of reset something. So obviously, whatever you're doing is not working, so that you can focus and get this test done. And I have to tell you, I passed part 2, part 3, part 4, first try, no problems, one after the other, boom, boom, boom. I'm now a licensed Florida CPA. Thank the Lord. Okay. So that's another reinvention. So the first one that could have been deemed a reinvention was me becoming a wife, but it wasn't too, too much of a change, but it was a change. The next one is the me studying for the CPA. I had to be more self-aware and more focused on, being self-centered as it relates to my time. And then the next time that I'm looking back now and realize that I have I went through a reinvention was after I became a mom. And I'm sure there's something else in between there, but for now, it'll be the next big one that I can think of is becoming a mother, right? I was always a bonus mom. And the bonus mom role just kind of, was smooth sailing for me because I helped raise all my cousins, my nieces, my nephews. Like that wasn't a thing. I loved the kids. I knew what I was doing. Not a problem. When my Richard was around, which is my bonus baby, my nieces and nephews were around. My sister-in-laws, they're all the same age. So that was kind of easy for me, navigating that role as the cool auntie, the cool, bonus mom, etc. But when I ended up having the children after going through, a huge bout of infertility, a horrible, loss, and then having the children, be in the NICU for close to 4 months, and just, I mean, my world just flipped inside out everywhere, all over the place. So I had to reinvent myself at that time. And I quite honestly, I have to do definitely a separate video on reinventing myself as a mom that can probably help women, because that one was a long road. And it's gonna kind of, bridge into my next reinvention, which is the era that I'm in now as a early 40-year-old in perimenopause. But we'll bridge into that one, because the mom one, it really took me for a loop, really a roller coaster. I didn't know what I was doing. And although I had helped taking care of children my whole life, I didn't know. I felt lost. I felt unsupported. I felt sad. I felt happy. I felt brave. I felt feminine. I felt like a woman. I felt, undeserving. I felt lost. When I tell you all the emotions, it was just a mess. So that was a big reinvention. So I'm definitely gonna, do a video. I have to write that down on the reinvention that was significant for me, which is a mom, because I know a lot of moms can relate, which you can share that video, and any new moms that are coming up, can help, relate to that as well. So that leads me to my fourth reinvention that I want to talk about a little bit more now, is where I currently am. I don't know what to call this reinvention, but I know that this reinvention is helping me be centered around, helping me be centered as it relates to not necessarily what I do with my time, but how I show up in the times that I'm living. And how I show up is impacted by so many things, guys. It's impacted by the fact that I am a mom. So depending on where I am and where I'm showing up, as a mom, I have to show up one way. The nature of my career has changed. So as it relates to work, how I'm showing up is different in the sense that not only I am a corporate executive, an officer at my company, which means a different set of responsibilities. I also am an entrepreneur. So how I show up as it relates to business is very tricky because at work, I because of COVID and so many other things that the whole world have been subject to over the past 4 years, the dynamic and the nature of our jobs have changed. I've gone, from a significant work staff to a much lower amount of people, in the office. So it's just changed how we operate, change how we deal, change how we interact. Thank goodness we're all still very close and my team is fantastic, but I have to show up differently. And because of that, I also now am an entrepreneur, which the entrepreneurship happened not planned, but because of my infertility, right? So as a result of my infertility, that's now pushed me into a different trajectory as an entrepreneur. So how I show up in that role is also different, right? And the other thing is as a mom now, I'm reinventing myself because I can't be the same mom that I was when my children were, toddlers and younger, because, they require just a lot more. I don't want to say a lot more. They still require a lot of time and energy. It's different, right? So now I have middle schoolers. The twins are going into 6th grade, and my youngest baby, he is going into 1st grade, and my bonus son, Rich, we're trying to work on helping him get out the house because he's, of age. He has a great job. He's building his career. So we wanted to make sure we could take care of him and help him until he's ready to purchase and move out, right? So the way I show up for him is different than how I used to before. So just reinventing myself in how I present. And another main thing that's causing me to have to reinvent, in addition to these different roles that I have, is my health. And that's one thing that no one ever prepares you for, is being a different type of person because of your health and your age. And with that, you just have to be a little bit more aware. I know I keep using that word a lot. You're a little bit more self-aware of what makes you feel good, of what positively impacts your health, what negatively impacts your health. That's when it comes to food, when it comes to physical activity, when it comes to your emotions, when it comes to the delivery of how you feel, how you communicate, and how you plan out your day, how you plan out your week. Because when your age and your health are involved, when you're younger, you just don't think that you'll ever stop. You just don't see a day where from one day to the next, you're not able to do as much. Your tenacity and your resiliency is not as much. Your ability to sustain is not as much. Now, you can still probably do some of the same things, but instead of doing it in one day, you now need to do it in 3 days, right? So, but you don't see that or think that when you're in your teens and 20s, right? So that's very mindful and helping me to reinvent who I am and how I show up because of my age and my health. So one of the things that they don't prepare you for at all, I don't think, at least in my culture, we're of Haitian descent, is when a young lady is about to start her period. Oh my gosh, it's the talk of the town. I don't know about you guys, but I mean, it's embarrassing. Everybody's waiting for it. Everybody wants to know when it came. Oh my gosh, she's a woman. You got to watch her. They come with the pep talks. They come with the natural remedies. And if you have pain, this is what you do. But da 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 da. So everyone is prepared for it. Everyone is waiting. Everyone is looking. Everyone's just in awe about, oh, this young lady. When it's time for that thing to go away, no one tells you anything. No one tells you anything. No one's waiting for it. And in our brain, we're just so used to having it for so long, right? And everybody's cycle shows up differently, throughout their life. But in your brain, you know it's going to stop, but you don't really fully grasp or have enough self-awareness to prepare, knowing what that means when it stops. And of course, just like everyone's onset of their cycle is different, the how it starts to go away is different too. So I say that to say the era that I'm in now, I guess I'm going to call it, early 40 menopausal lady, right? That's where I am. Early 40s menopausal lady, or perimenopause. I'm in perimenopause now. And my health was greatly affected. After I had my last son, I had just turned 37. I had him 2 weeks after I turned 37. Our birthdays are 2 weeks apart. Well, 36 years and all that stuff. So 37 years and 2 weeks apart. So after I had him, I just realized that I wasn't bouncing back, so to speak, not necessarily in body image or anything like that, just my energy, my mood, what I'm able to accomplish. I just wasn't bouncing back like I felt I did with the twins. Because with the twins, physically, I was able to kind of do certain things, but mentally I wasn't there because they were in the NICU, but that's another story. But I just felt my body was off. And it goes back to the other video I made about intuition. As a woman, you just know, like, hey, something's not quite right, right? So I just kind of chugged it off to, I'm older now. When I had the twins, I was only 30, 31. I'm older, so maybe that's why, and it's taking longer. All along, I fast forwarded, a few years. I ended up in the hospital, in the ER. Spent 2 days in the ER in 2021, spent another 2 days in the ER in 2023. In the midst of that, I started my, doctoral program. So there was just a lot of changes, a lot going on. So I say that to say now that, come to find out, I was going through perimenopause, and that really didn't help with the symptoms and everything that I had on my plate. And in the midst of all of this time, I had been diagnosed with menstrual migraines. And what menstrual migraines, my neurologist, bless his heart, he passed away, but I have a new neurologist now. But he diagnosed me with menstrual migraines. And I said, well, what is that? Because I don't have headaches. What do you mean I have a migraine? And he goes, no, that's more hormonal in nature, where you have to be very mindful and self-aware and focused on 5 days, up to 5 days before through 5 days after the onset of my cycle, I may be exhibiting, symptoms. And 2 to 3 days before through 2 to 3 days after ovulation, I may experience symptoms. So what were these symptoms, you may ask? All right, let's talk about it. I end up he found out because I did a test, because he's the neurologist. We did the nerve test. I had a pinched nerve in my right wrist. Okay, so that, in addition to these menstrual migraines, which I had no headache, I suffer from aura, caused me to have like total tingling and or numbness on the entire left side. And when I tell you guys, then that's why I end up in the hospital, because you literally feel like you're dying. Like, you don't know a lot about a lot, but you know that your left side is your heart. You know that tingling and numbness is a stroke. Like, you just think the worst. Excuse me. And, so after that happened routinely, and I had to like put 2 and 2 together, like, okay, what date is this happening? What time in the month is this happening? Then I started saying, oh, okay, that's what it is. But even then, we're not attributing it to perimenopause. We're just like, okay, she has menstrual migraines. Let's give her this medication. When you feel the onset of it, with this stuff, I can't drive. When I have these symptoms, I get panicked. I just feel like I can't breathe. If I'm behind the wheel, I have to try to pull over. I had an episode with my husband in the car, and he nearly freaked out, and he got even more upset because when I started to feel it, for me to not freak out the children or him, I didn't say anything. But then slowly but surely, I start to, not even me cognitively, like, I guess subconsciously, or the car just started moving to the side. And my husband's like, what's going on? I'm like, yeah, I haven't been feeling well since about like 3 exits ago. He's like, what? So we end up having to, okay, Marlene, pull the car over. Marlene, pull the car. So I finally stopped the car, can't drive, a mess. Okay. Then the other thing that I have is now I'm experiencing nausea. And I never really had nausea before. And it's just horrible because even when I was pregnant, I never had nausea. So I feel sorry for the people who have that because that is just a horrible feeling, right? And all of that to say, finally, we were able to, between my neurologist, I had to get a new one because my neurologist passed away. And the neurologist mainly was because of the menstrual migraines, and I would get aura, the whole numbing on the left side, tingling. I couldn't see, right? You can't see. I feel like I couldn't breathe. My heart rate was elevated. So that turned into also having a bout of anxiety with panic, because then I would have an anxiety attack, which would then turn into a panic attack because when this stuff happens, I'm behind the wheel driving, I have my kids in the car, a mess. So all of that to say, and in the meantime, my cycle is still regular. And then I was having these issues, not every month, maybe twice a year. So as it started to become more prevalent, that's when my neurologist said, no, you're going to have to come in if it's happening more than 3 to 4 times a month, meaning the entire culmination of symptoms. And another thing I noticed that change, and I just attributed it to the baby or postpartum, was I suffered from hyperhidrosis, and my hands and feet would sweat from the time I was a little girl. Like, I mean, just dripping in sweat. I used to have paper on my desk when I was writing as a kid because my hand would just like sweat and mess everything up. One time I was in the bank with my sister a long time ago, and we're standing in line and my feet were just going, and I had on these cute sandals because I'm a girly girl too. So I'm always like dressed up, cute, whatever, and have my little sandals on. And as I was walking, I was tracking with water from my feet, just a mess. So I say that to say, in the midst of all of this, I started to not sweat. So I'm like, oh, okay. And I'm like, okay, great. I was going to call my cousin because I have another cousin because hyperhidrosis runs in our family. And I remember him telling me, yeah, don't worry about it. It'll stop on its own when you're like 21, between 21 and 23. Well, granted, 10 years after that, I still had this stuff. So when it finally stopped and I was like maybe 38, 39, and it's not that it stopped, but it wasn't at the level. It was enough for me to feel comfortable. I could put lotion on now because in those younger years, I never wore lotion. Somebody would have to put it on for me because if I touch it, forget it, that the floodgates would open. And I have my uncle, God bless his heart, he's passed away too. He had it as well. And he would tell me, I remember I was 9, and he would tell me, okay, at any point you feel that your hands are really sweaty, just find just regular soap and water, wash your hands, and it'll hold it at bay for a little bit of while, right? To get back into the AC or go under a fan. And that always helps. So I was constantly washing my hands too, because that was a tip that he gave me. And so with that, I found that body composition kind of changed. I wasn't as sweaty and as much as as I used to be. And fine. So the other thing I noticed was my hair. And that's why I wanted to talk about it because I have now since cut all of my hair off. And I was someone that had so much hair. Talking about my kids in the NICU, one of the ladies that we worked together years, 10 years prior, and she was able to recognize me and came up to talk to me because she goes, you have to be someone I know, because there was one girl I knew that has this hair. Her name was Marlene. Lo and behold, that was me. That's how much hair I had. Like, I was known for my hair. And to see how I'm sitting here and able to embrace this short hair and not feel emotional and sad and regretful, which there's nothing I can do because it's not my fault, so I can't regret it anyway. But it's just a testament to, okay, Pops, it's just a testament to how I've grown and being able to embrace in this new reinvention, because this 43-year-old perimenopause Marlene comes with short hair. Okay. So by the time we put all of this together, and it's when I got my neurologist, she told me to come see her when I if I was having more symptoms, more prevalent, and I did. And my primary care physician, she was worried because I didn't pass one of their anxiety it's like a one of these pre-tests. My words are going away. It's kind of like a screening, right? I didn't pass one of her screenings for anxiety, so she was all up in arms. And then I ended up going to my acupuncturist so she can help with regulating hormones. And by the time everybody put everything together and got me a care plan, I realized that at the end of 2023 is when it's like, okay, you're perimenopausal. And even when I was hospitalized and in the ER in 2023 in July, because after I went to the emergency room in July, I had to wait until December to even see the neurologist because she was so packed. So it was that end of 2023 that everybody got together and we all came to the conclusion based on labs, everything that's what I have going on. So since then, I've had to embrace it, and I've been a little bit more self-aware and, mindful of what my body is doing. So one of the next things that is changing now is my cycle used to be every 26, 27 days, and now it is as short as 23 days, where it comes on day 23, and it goes as far as day 36 was the longest one. So at that point, my husband and I were freaking out because we thought we had a pregnancy scare, because I've never had a 36-day period. And I go, well, what's happening? Like, this is crazy. I'm 43. Like, I can't be pregnant, right? Well, I can, but in that case, that wasn't the case, but that's what we were thinking. So me reinventing myself has really allowed me to embrace, where I am, and being okay with the old versions of Marlene are no longer there. And it's okay to move forward into this new version of myself. But and I'm going to make more videos on the perimenopause, because now that I'm fully ingrained in it, I think that more awareness and information needs to be out there so that women know what to look forward to. And then also their spouses and partners and family can help them, because my family has been subject to seeing when I'm having a full-on perimenopausal attack, and it's hard because it happens different for everyone. The last one was, you know, um, in May. I think it was Mother's Day, and we were celebrating my dad's 79th birthday that Sunday. And I literally was about to pass out. I turned gray. I started sweating. I was nauseous. It was horrible. I couldn't feel like my left side. I couldn't see. And it happened just out of the blue. So my brother, called my husband, and my husband was like, okay, he's coming. And he's like, okay, well, no, I'm taking my sister home to you. Like, it was a whole thing. So then my husband ended up stopping by, because on that day, when it's Mother's Day like that, everybody is going to see everybody. So we're split between the different families in the home. So by the time my husband came back, I was better. My niece came, she put, cold compress on my head. And, another time I caught an attack. I was with my sister. We were driving up to a place to look for a suit for my nephew's 18th birthday party, and literally in the car, sweating, about to pass out. We had to find water, get me the medication. I couldn't feel my left side. Like, it was horrible. She's like, what is going on? Like, and that was in October, right? And then this happened in May. So you see how you just never know when the onset of it is going to happen. And it's just very scary. So I have to embrace that and learn that I'm not Superwoman. I have to be able to recognize when I'm not feeling well and rest. I have to stop. I have to take a break. And I'm okay with that, and just being able to reinvent myself into that person that allows myself a little bit more grace, because of my age and because of my health, has also been very, very instrumental and important to me. And, I just don't know if I would have been able to do it if I didn't have the wherewithal to recognize it, so that I can pull back and take a step back and recognize that, and, do things differently, because I can't push like I used to push and do what I used to do before. And in that reinvention, 43-year-old perimenopausal Marlene is being better at saying no. I'm being better at, stopping myself if I feel like I'm getting overwhelmed or burned out. I'm a little bit better at making my list, because I'm not remembering everything and doing everything like I used to. So I either have a digital list that's on my phone, or I have like a physical list that's on paper, and that's good with me because I'm able to check things off and do what I need to do. And that's why I want to kind of get on here and just to kind of wrap things up a little bit, and just letting everyone know that when you're in that reinvention phase, because of whatever reason, some people go through a reinvention because of a change of a dynamic in a relationship, right? You might, just like in my case, I had a dynamic relationship change by being married. Some people have a reinvention because they're, have experienced a divorce, right? Or you have a change because you've moved to a different state, or you've changed careers. You were doing something for so long at one point in your life. Now you're doing something else, and in essence, starting over. You have people where they've gone from being the type of hands-on, engaged parents, but now they're empty nesters. So they have to reinvent themselves because their kids are out of the house. So reinvention is something that a lot of us just can't get away from. It's going to, impact us one way or another. And I think, now that I am aware of it, whereas I wasn't before, you're able to embrace it once you realize that that's what's happening. It's like slowly but surely you go through these changes and then you realize, oh, okay, I'm no longer over here. I now have a new sense of purpose or a new identity or a new, essence that has become yourself, right? Because of things that are changing in your life. So just to kind of recap a little bit, part of knowing or dealing with, reinventing yourself is to do a self assessment. You identify what isn't working in your life. You recognize your strengths and your weaknesses. And then you also talk about your values and your passions. So knowing that am 43 now and now have this perimenopausal, which is mainly a hormonal issue. It's important to me to realize that, okay, yes, I'm going through this, but part of my values and what's important to me in my life is still being able to work, still being able to be there for my children, my family, my husband. So I have to be mindful of that and take that transformation and now make those parts of my life look different in order for me to show up for my children, my family, my husband, be able to work. What do I have to do now, taking into account me being 43 and perimenopausal, right? So it's important to do that self-assessment. Okay, the next thing is to set goals. You want to define clear, achievable goals and break down your goals into manageable steps and keep a timeline to track the progress. So again, you're setting goals. You're going to define clear, achievable goals, breaking down the goals into manageable steps, and keeping a timeline to track your progress. And I kind of talked about that a little bit. I'm really big on writing things down so I can check things off, knowing that I was able to accomplish them. But let's say what I was able to accomplish pre-perimenopause may not be the same way, or I may not be able to approach it the same way now that I'm in this different version of myself. So it's important for me to say, okay, at this particular age, what's important to me? I'm in my doctoral I'm a doctoral candidate and in my dissertation sequence. So right now, a goal for me in this stage of perimenopause and being 43 is getting through school, right? So I have to now approach that a little different compared to how I would have approached it when I was in my young 30s trying to do my master's and study for my CPA. So that's what I mean. Like when you're reinventing yourself, your goals may be the same, right? It doesn't mean you can't accomplish, but you have to kind of scale back in terms of how much you think you can get done, in a particular amount of time or in a particular manner, right? You might have to go about doing things a little differently, okay? The next one is shifting your mindset, right? Embracing a growth mindset, letting go of limiting beliefs, and practice self-compassion and patience. And that's what I was explaining to you guys. I'm a lot more self-aware and patient with myself and being cognizant of what I'm able to accomplish, how I'm able to accomplish, how much I'm able to accomplish, when I'm able to accomplish it. And when I'm not, I just take a step back. Then just to give you an example, right? My mindset this weekend was I need to rest and I need to purge my children's room because they're outgrowing everything and school is about to start and we need to make space for all the new uniforms and underwear and t-shirts and socks and shoes and everything that we bought. So that was a goal that my husband and I were trying to do this weekend. Rest, of course, and record videos. And I wanted to try to make sure I got the content out because before you know it, next weekend, something else will come up. And I kind of gave myself some leeway because I was supposed to do these videos last weekend. But last weekend, for the life of me, I can't tell you, I don't remember, don't make me after next weekend, but I must have been running around or do something. I don't know, but we used yesterday was Saturday. Okay, yesterday was Saturday. I had a few errands to run in the morning. My husband took my car, to the shop. I had a scratch on it because the bus, the arm that lets out when the buses stop and the arm comes out. The lady scratched my car all the way across. So I didn't have a car. So my big son, Richard, took me to run my errand. We came back. I got on the computer. I did different things that I needed to do. I had my checklist. I don't have it with me. It's over here. I was able to get a lot done on my checklist. And did I get to do the purging of the boys' room? No, my husband went to work. By the time he got home, he was tired. I wasn't going to harass him. And quite honestly, I didn't want to do it myself. And it's not the end of the world. And we have a whole nother weekend, right? The old me would have been like, oh no, we need to do it. And we're sitting here. And whether my husband was tired or not, he was going to help me. No. My mindset has changed. My mindset has changed. It's okay. It can wait. So that was yesterday. So today I said, okay, I got my breakfast in the morning. The weather is bad. We were supposed to have like a play date with the children for back to school. That didn't happen because it looks like we have some kind of system coming out, South Florida. we have some kind of tropical storm or tropical depression. So the weather was bad, so no pool time for the children. My big son took them to Chuck E. Cheese, right? And I told them, go and enjoy it because you're going to get to the age where you're not going to want to go to Chuck E. Cheese anymore. So they ended up going. And since they were out of the house and the house was quiet, my husband and I took that time. We took our showers, we got settled in, did everything we needed to do. He has since left to run errands. And I said, you know what? I'm going to use this time. It's only my mother-in-law and I that are home, and I'm going to record this content. So I've already knocked out, this is like my 7th video. So I'm super excited about it. So I've already knocked that out. So my mindset has shifted. So if I don't do anything else, that's it for me for today. I'm okay with that, right? So reinventing myself into being this person that's allowing myself, some self-compassion, allowing myself some patience, not overbooking my calendar, right? Saying I can do all of this stuff because the world is going to end if I don't get it done by this time. Absolutely not. Okay. So that's the other thing, shifting your mindset. The next thing with reinventing yourself, learning and growth, you invest in education or skills that align with your new path. You seek mentors or role models and stay curious and open to new experiences. And that's exactly what I'm doing. I've been doing research on some apps that I want to use for my business. So I've been having that going. Obviously, I'm in school, learning more about leadership and talking to experiences of women. And that's what I'm doing my dissertation research on. So I'm an avid learner. I've been coined to be an overachiever. So learning is always my thing, whatever I can know. Now I'm learning, though, to not overly fill my head with too much content to the point where it negates the purpose of me trying to learn something, because then I'm too burdened with too much information. So I try to kind of take in what I need and what will help me for that particular task or moment, and then kind of go from there. So definitely continuing to learn and grow. The next thing is building a support system. As I reinvent myself, it's important because sometimes when you're going through this reinvention, people expect the old version of you, and you just can't be that person because you're no longer that person, right? The older version of you no longer exists. So you have to find that support system and surround yourself with people who are positive, supportive, and network with individuals who inspire you, right? And seek professional help if needed via a coach and a therapist. I love my therapist. I've been with her since 2012. So she is my lifesaver. I'm on the calendar. Even when I didn't need it, I said, book me all the way. And if I don't need you that week, I'll reschedule and give you ample notice to help someone else. But definitely being able to surround myself with positive, supportive people. And in the time in my life that I'm in, as also now an entrepreneur, I'm learning to continue to ask for help. Obviously, I don't know everything, and I have to be able to take some risks and, lean into the people that I feel are giving me good information and information that'll help build my business, knowing that I don't also have that pressure for booking with certain people because they know my priority right now is trying to get through school, right? Trying to defend my dissertation successfully, hopefully at the end of the year, fingers crossed. So definitely seeking that help, getting that support system. Another big support system that I have right now is obviously my husband, because I have everything is another video. In the beginning of my, well, not the beginning, the middle of my doctoral journey, we had a little bit of a falling out as it relates to, keeping promises to the children and trying to do certain things. So once he realized like, oh, this is a lot and she really like can't, then he immediately got back on the bandwagon and I didn't have another problem, right? So having that support system is very important because it's important to me to make sure that the children still are able to participate and do what they need to do as children. So the issue that we had at the time was, there's a lot of parties. We have a huge family. He has a huge family. I have a huge family. So that means the kids have a tremendous family. There's always someone's birthday. They have friends at school. They've been together since kindergarten. So all of them support each other and attend each other's birthdays. So I wanted to make sure that I had the support of making sure they could take the children to these different parties if I'm unable to attend. And this particular one time, he had already confirmed that he would take them. And then, he ended up not being able to go. And that just kind of threw a monkey wrench in everything. And that was when before I found out what was going on with my hormones and stuff like that. And I didn't really respond to that well. And I ended up going anyway. I missed my deadline. It was a whole mess. So the good thing is I'm very self-aware and mindful of the importance. And that's always been in my husband and I's relationship, being able to communicate, right? So I made sure I communicated when, I was a lot more calm. My big son called me and said, "Oh, Marlene, where are you?" I was going to take the kids. I said, "No, don't worry about it. Your dad said he would do it." I even had a backup plan set up for the children, but he had me cancel the backup plan because he was going just to end up not going. Oh, y'all know. It's the principle, okay? But then I took a step back and said, okay, well, because sometimes things happen. You have to be able to pivot. Maybe, not maybe, he had plans on going. He ended up not feeling well because he had to work. He was working 6 days. But in my brain, I looked at it as, okay, well, women were always sacrificing. And if we're tired, we're going anyway. And I don't want to disappoint my children, right? So it was a whole mess. And if the lady didn't offer to come get the children for me, I would have been fine. But the lady offered, the mom, to come get the kids for me. My husband says, "Don't worry about it. He'll take them." Just to not, yeah, it was a mess. But we got over it. It was fine. And let's just say since then, the kids haven't missed the party. They didn't miss that party either, but I missed the deadline because I didn't want to disappoint them and not show up for the mom because again, if she already knew I couldn't come, which is why she offered to come and get them for me, right? And I trust her because with us folks, we don't trust everybody with our children, but the party was right up the street. She watches them like it's their own. So, So all of that to say, at the end of the day, yes. Um, I don't know that you can go. I didn't know that they closed let me see. I didn't know that the kids locked the door. Okay, sorry about that. Am I recording? Yes, I'm still recording. Okay. So at the end of the day, it's really important to have that support system. And I have that in my husband. I have that in my mother-in-law. I have that in my big son, Rich, because he's in a different stage of his life now and he helps out a lot with the children. So being able to reinvent yourself by way of having a support system is also very, very important. Okay. And don't be afraid to ask for help, whether it's via therapy, your pastor, your friends, a trusted, close-knit support group is what you need. Okay. And the next thing is to take action, right? In your reinvention of self. Start small and build momentum. Be consistent and persistent and celebrate small victories along the way. And when you're on this, mission of reinventing yourself, it doesn't all happen at the same time, and it doesn't happen all at once, right? Well, I guess that's the same thing. It happens in pieces, right? Because oftentimes you don't know that you need to do it because you don't realize that you're actually in the reinvention process, right? So from that perspective, it becomes a little tricky because you don't recognize that you're there, you're confused, you don't know what's going on, and you just celebrate your small victories once you're like, aha, the light bulb comes off, right? So you start small and build momentum because you can't do everything all at the same time. And the last one is being able to adapt to the change. Be flexible and open to adjusting your plan. Learn from your failures and setbacks and stay resilient and focused on your vision. So as 43-year-old perimenopausal Marlene, I am learning to be flexible. Like I mentioned, like I'm recording now, my husband coming up with the laundry. Like, I don't know. I thought I paused the video, didn't pause the video. So now he's like, oh my gosh, I'm walking through, just go. So I have to stay resilient and focused on my vision. My vision today was to get this video recorded. I don't know how to edit, so I don't know how to take that part out where I got up and got the door. But I'm staying focused. It's okay. Things happen, right? And just being able to be flexible, adjusting my plan. My plan was to have this even be a shorter video, but that didn't go according to plan either. But hopefully it's a good listen. I'm really out here on a mission to help people. And I just feel like at the end of the day, we all are different versions of ourselves. And, it's really, really important to find that resource like this, right? This type of video to help you understand what's going on, help you be okay with the change that's happening. We all aren't set or meant to stay the same forever. Life is about change. Life is about growth. Life is about evolving. So it's a matter of being mindful of that, recognizing that, and getting help along the way to help you get to the next version of yourself. So I'm not sure which version of Marlene is next to come, but I'm happy with the version of myself that I am now, right? I'm here recording my videos. I'm putting that content out. I have a great relationship with my husband. I love my children to death. I'm just very happy with where I am. And instead of fighting my perimenopause, I'm learning to embrace her. I'm learning to embrace my hair. You guys, I never thought that I would have these little curls, and I have, curls in my head, but everything is okay. I'm not stressed out. I'm just trying to protect my peace. I made a whole nother video, catch it, about protecting my peace, being interrupted or being thrown off guard or being, having to change when it wasn't my call used to just throw me for a loop. And that's no longer the case. I'm happy to say that. And, life is about just, giving yourself grace and being able to pat yourself on the back when you do what's good, being accountable. If you mess up, apologize, move forward, because sometimes in your reinvention, you might get so caught up in it that you end up hurting other people, even if it's not intentional. So at that particular point, you're be mindful of that, be accountable, apologize when you need to, and move better as you move on. So that's about it for today. Thank you so much for listening. I know it was a little bit of a long video. If you want, listen to it sped up, but I know that it will help a lot of people. And if you're in that point of your life where you're trying to overcome some obstacles, or you're trying to recognize whether or not you're in a mode of reinvention, or something is just not the same, and you want help to be able to mitigate that, navigate that, figure it out, definitely reach out to me, www.mcdbe.com. I'd love to hear your comments. Comment down below. And yeah, I'll see you in the next video. Thank you so much. Be safe.